There is a practice that I have whenever I work with my voice clients. When we get to a place where I feel like, I think they're ready and they feel like they're ready, many times I will have them put their hand up here and the other hand here, and it creates kind of a monitor, like a natural monitor for their voice to be fed back to them. When they heard their voice so close and so intimately, feeding back to themselves, I would oftentimes see people just start to cry, and they would begin to have these powerful moments of revelation as they were singing that song or giving that speech or doing that poem. And then I began to study what was going on, the intimacy of the moment and the vulnerability of the moment. And what I was seeing is that the very thing that they were paying money and investing time to make sure that they were able to deliver to others, when they actually fed it to themselves, they would begin to have breakthroughs. It was phenomenal. I tend to draw people to me who have the heart of a servant. People who want to serve humanity. They want to be empowered so that they can empower others. They're so used to being altruistic with their voice, with their abilities. They're so used to giving out that whenever they got a chance to see what they were working so hard to give others, it would overwhelm them and overtake them and heal them and help them to process some of their life issues as well. I say altruistic because any of you who've ever heard that word or used it understand, or hopefully understand, that the word simply means to give of yourself selflessly. And altruism is a wonderful thing in that it enhances your social connections. Scientists have also come to the conclusion that it can help you to live a healthier, possibly even longer life. Altruism gives you an outlet for wanting to just give and to do for others. It helps to strengthen and build communities. So being altruistic is not a bad thing. Unfortunately, there are people who are altruistic to a fault. Now, there are different types of altruism. There's kin altruism, where you're altruistic with regard to your family, your kinfolk. There's cultural altruism, where you're altruistic when it comes to the communities that you keep, or maybe it's the group of people that you belong to that's outside of the family. It's I give selflessly to any organization that you're a part of. There's reciprocal altruism, but it's more of an expectancy that you'll get it back. For instance, you have two roommates. One typically will pay, for dinner one time, and then the other one pays the next time. It's just one of those things that's back and forth. You give selflessly, you give your last, but you know that that person would do the same back to you. And then there's what many people call, pure altruism. And that's the kind of altruism where someone is giving and they're giving to a place where they're not really expecting anything back. And it's just, if I see someone that is in need, I'll take the shirt off my back and help someone. Unfortunately, there's also extreme altruism. Extreme altruism is when you give to a place where you actually are so selfless that you put yourself in jeopardy, because it comes from a place many times of trauma. It comes from a place of lack of balance and boundaries. You give to the point where you feel depleted. You begin to feel resentful. You are unbalanced. You're unhealthy. You're unwell. It causes you to feel like it's the only thing that you have going for you. Your whole identity is built around the fact that people know that you're a giver. And that can be something that takes its toll after a while. One of the ways that extreme altruism can be seen is whenever you give something to someone else that you wouldn't even do for yourself. It's not even so much that you couldn't do it for yourself. It's that you don't feel you're worthy of the very thing that you give to other people. Like, you may spend your time helping someone else with a project, but you won't even take that same time to write your own book or to finally do the project that you've been wanting to do. You don't feel like somehow you're worthy of your own time and your own sacrifice and your own energy, but you'll give it freely to other people. Extreme altruism can also be seen in the fact that you're able to affirm and coach others, but you can't turn that same affirmation onto yourself. You have negative self-talk about yourself, but you're full of compliments and love and affirmation for other individuals. Extreme altruism can also be seen in that you believe that sacrifice is the only way to show love. And somewhere along the line, this was given to you as a truth, when in all actuality, balance is one of the ways that we show love. Taking care of ourselves so that we can show up for others is one of the ways that we show love. Another way that you can see extreme altruism in people is through certain things that we've already have definitions for: codependency, helicopter parenting, people who bend over backwards to help assist others in their growth and development, or partner with others in ways that are unbalanced and that are calling for you to give it all, and you just completely get to a place where you begin to take from yourself at every turn in order to see that someone else is taken care of. I'm not talking about the kind of parenting that comes with the fact that you're just a good parent and you want to see your child succeed, and sometimes you do have to make a few sacrifices. I'm talking about your whole life and identity is built around being a parent, and that can actually negatively impact a child after a while, and codependency can ruin a relationship. So those are just a couple of the ways that extreme altruism or extreme giving, unbalanced giving, the kind that says I can give to others but I don't deserve the same for myself, can manifest. And some of the reasons that it's not good is because you can draw unscrupulous people to you, and you open yourself up to be a magnet for narcissists and psychopaths and people who are members of the dark triad. They flock to that type of energy. You're unselfish, and they know that they can get every bit of supply that they need off of you. So they partner up with you, and many times those types of relationships, as you know, began with love bombing. And so you're told, oh, you're such a giving person and no one else has ever treated me this way, and you're loved and you're all these kinds of things, so you think. But they're basically just priming the pump until you're bled dry. Another reason that it's not good is because oftentimes you're actually overlooking something that you need to be healed from. Extreme giving is a trauma response. It comes from something in your life where you were led to believe that you have to be the one to always give and be there for people, no matter what type of person it is. Another thing that can make extreme giving so bad for you is that, or extreme altruism so bad for you, is that you get to a place where you have a hard time differentiating between a community and a cult. You have to understand that a community is a vibrant place of giving where everyone brings their gifts to the table and there's a balance of giving and everyone is making sacrifices so that the others can have. And you know that if you go and you lay this down at the table, you can pick something up off the table that you may need. That's what a community is. You commune with one another. There is like an equality. There is a sense of we're all in this together. A cult is whenever you're being indoctrinated and dictated to what you're supposed to be doing. And it doesn't matter if you're receiving anything in return. And you find yourself often lacking with the inability to make wise choices and decisions. And the next thing you know, you're completely depleted and you have nothing to show for it. So you really do need to be mindful that you're not a part of a cultish type of environment, but you're in a community, a true community when you're giving, because there's more health and balance there. Speaking of community, one of the things when we talk about things like, giving and radical self-care and showing up for yourself that we can often encounter is people who want to stress that, oh, all of this radical self-care and showing up for yourself and self is selfish. And as a result, it's weakening communities and it's, robbing from the whole in order to take care of one individual, and that's yourself. Listen, there are people out there who are hurt. They have been struck with trauma that is so debilitating that they really do need healing from the inside out in order to even be an effective part of a community. And some of us have been there. Some of us are there. And you need to replenish yourself through mental health care. You need to replenish yourself through time for yourself. You need to replenish yourself by setting boundaries. You need to replenish yourself by making sure that you're making right choices when it comes to the people who you allow into your space, into your energy field. And you should make no apologies for that. When I think about giving to yourself and how it can actually impact the community, it can actually strengthen the community. Let's say Miriam works at a soup kitchen and she makes gallons upon gallons of soup weekly. And then there's a soup line. She doesn't eat herself. She just gets up there and stands up for 6-8 hours, however long, and she's feeding the community, and she's weak. And she can barely stand and help anyone else, but she's in there ladling down to the very bottom of that pot, making sure everyone has. How long do you think Miriam, with her good intentions and what she's doing for the community, is going to last? And think about this same Miriam, who before the soup kitchen opens, she grabs a bowl, she sits down, and she takes time to properly feed herself. And she nourishes her own body so that she is fit for what it is that she has to do for the rest of the day. Now that Miriam is basically saying, I've got to take care of myself before I can be effective in the community. And it's the same. We hear these examples all the time. We hear the example of, put on your own life jacket, or we hear examples of make sure that you put your own oxygen mask on before you try to help anyone else. I'm reminded of, even a breastfeeding mother. When I nursed my son, I remember reading all of the lactation books that said, make sure you're getting enough calories, mom, make sure you're eating. One of the most beautiful displays I've ever seen, and there was controversy surrounding it, is when the actress Salma Hayek, she visited a country and she saw that there was a child who was starving, and the mother was also starving, and the mother could not make milk for the child. Salma, who at the time was also a nursing mother, she took the child and nursed the child. The mother, she couldn't believe someone was taking the time to feed her child because she did not have it to give. See, if the mother had enough calories and food in her system, she could have gave to the child. By no fault of the mom's, she was in a very desperate and destitute situation. But to see that act of kindness, and for her to realize the fact that even if she wants to, and even when she tries, she can't give it to her child. And that's how some people operate. They're in a space where they've now depleted themselves, or have become so depleted that they can't even be effective in the community or to whoever it is that they need to be effective for. Don't let that be you. Yes, community is important, but show up for yourself. Be present for yourself so that you can effectively administer your gifts and your medicines and whatever it is that you have to give to other people. So how do you go about making sure that you're a balanced giver? Here's some things that you need to remember. Number one, no is a complete sentence. See, a lot of us have learned how to say no. I even have a video called How to Say No Even After You've Said Yes, because that's a whole nother story. But many of us are good at saying no, but we still let people rob us of our energy, in that we have to give all the excuses in the world and go back and forth with some people before they'll accept the fact that you've placed a boundary on something, before they'll finally come to the conclusion that, you know what, she said no, he said no, they said no. That means that the conversation is now over and I need to look for a different alternative. Number two, beware of people who take from you. And note I said take. See, we have this phrase where we say, it's all about give and take. See, I don't like that phrase. It has this energy about it that says, if I give something to you, then I have the right to take something. I might be taking it a little too far, but think about it. You have to be intentional with your words. Even in my video, another video I have called How to Protect Your Energy, I talk about how I'm very intentional with my words when I deal with people. If it's a reciprocal relationship, it should truly be about give and receive. You give to someone and they receive it. And then you're given to and you receive it. It never has to be any element, even implied, where something has to be done by force or taken. So be mindful of people who have a give and take mentality. See, givers, there's a quote that says, givers have to set boundaries and limits because takers rarely do. So it's up to you to set the boundaries for how much you give. Number three, things to remember as you're practicing being a more balanced giver. Understand that there's going to be times where you're going to have to let people reap the results of their own choices, even after you have given them sound, sage, and wise advice. Sometimes you will give all that you have to someone in the way of advice and energy to help them to make a sound decision, or maybe even give them an answer that they've been looking for. And depending on where they are in their life or their motive for coming to you, they still make a choice that you don't agree with. They might end up not well as a result of the choice that they made. After a while, you have to be okay with watching people reap whatever it is that they brought upon themselves based upon their choices. You did your part. You gave the advice. You gave the counsel. You got to be willing to look away sometimes or walk away sometimes. Hold space for them if you want. Pray for them if you want to. Sometimes you just got to let people be and let them deal with whatever it is that they conjure up based upon their own choices and based upon their own actions. Number four, don't allow people to guilt you into doing more than you know you should. See, guilt is a pro-social behavior. It is something that is derived out of making sure that we take care of one another, but it can be perverted. It can be taken out of bounds to the place where someone has a guilt complex put on them many times in their youth by people who were in charge of giving them care. where you were guilted into certain actions instead of motivated, instead of compelled. And now, as you live and breathe, it is very difficult for you to tell someone no and to not do something, because that guilt is a powerful, powerful force that binds us to community. But in your case, it may have been perverted. So you need to understand, are you feeling guilty because you truly did something that was not right, that is going to tear the fabric of the community down? Or are you feeling guilty because you have a guilt complex? Learn to differentiate between those two and make sure that you don't operate from a guilt complex. Number 5, know the difference between humility and bending down and allowing someone to step all over you. See, humility at its root is your humanness. It's acknowledging, I once heard someone say, humility is acknowledging your humanness. In your humanness, you say, this is what I'm capable of, and this is what I'm not going to do. Even if I am capable of it, I acknowledge that in my humanness, this is not a good thing for me to be doing. This is too much. I refuse. Or at some point, if you are to that place where you're depleted, say, I cannot do this. And make no apologies for it. You're acknowledging your humanness in that situation. You're saying, this is who I am and this is what I'm able to bring to the table. Now, humility can also be seen as, giving honor to, a higher power or strength for helping you. But then again, that's also an acknowledgement of humanity, because you're saying, in and of myself and in and of my physical human self, I don't have the capacity and I rely on someone higher in order to help me through. So either way, you're acknowledging your humanness. Your humility has nothing to do with being walked all over and letting people just have their way with you because you're going to get your reward later on. No, y'all. Number 6, study about the dark triad, especially if you're a person who has struggled with codependency, especially if you're a person who constantly finds yourself in relationships with organizations and other people, or love, romantic relationships, friendships, where you're always dealing with people who tend to have very selfish tendencies, manipulative tendencies, controlling tendencies, where you always leave the relationship feeling like you have been drained, taken advantage of, rode hard, put away wet, and there's no thanks whatsoever. And that person moves on and they, in essence, they find their next victim. Study about the dark triad, but more importantly, get help for the issues that you may have that is constantly attracting these people or seeking these types of people out. You are not called into this world to set yourself on fire so that other people can remain warm. I understand that we come from all different backgrounds. We come from all different religious and spiritual affiliations. And so some of it is learned through teaching. Some of it is learned through indoctrination. Some of it is learned and passed down from family and through culture and all of these types of things. Find yourself in wherever it is that you're teaching, you're training, and possibly, unfortunately, your indoctrination has come from, and begin to seek balance in all things. You deserve everything that you so freely give to other people. If you walk around feeling like you don't deserve yourself, then people are going to treat you like you deserve nothing. I'm rooting for you.
Sometimes when we don't know the words we hum,